Got some coffee, caramel macchiato. Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to recommend, why did I say it like that? Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to recommend some of my favorite romance books to you. These are all ones I read this year and I think you should read them if you haven't already. There's quite a stack, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into the first book, which is The Honey Don't List by Christina Lauren. This is about Carrie Duncan. She has worked for a design guru for a very long time. It's Melissa and Rusty Tripp, and they're kind of like the Chip and Joanna of this book. And Carrie and Rusty's assistant fall in love in this book. So they're following the design gurus as they are going on a book tour. Lately, they have kind of been at each other's throat, and the assistants are going along to make sure that everything runs smoothly and all of that. While road tripping with the Tripps up the West Coast, Carrie and James vow to work together to keep their boss's secrets hidden and their own jobs secure. And it's just so adorable. I'm not really sure why many people weren't enjoying this one. It's not like my all-time favorite Christina Lauren, but it's definitely up there. I love it. You do not have to, it looks super like Valentine's. You do not have to save it for Valentine's Day. But I absolutely loved this one. If you like workplace romances that aren't necessarily set like at an office, you might like this one. Next up is Shipped by Angie Hockman. This is another workplace romance. It's a slight enemies to lovers set on this cruise ship in the Galapagos, and I just loved the setting. I loved the nod to conservation in this one. So we have our main character, Henley Evans, and then you have Graham Crawford Collins, the offsite social media manager. And their bosses task them with drafting a proposal on boosting bookings in the Galapagos, and the best proposal wins the promotion. So they have to go to the Galapagos together, and it's just, I love it. I love the scenes in the Galapagos and stuff like that. So if you're looking for like a little book that will kind of take you on a vacay, but you're also looking for some romance, this is the one for you. Right, next up, if you're looking for something a little bit more like hard hitting, I would go with Float Plan by Trish Dollar. I'm going to be very upfront with the trigger warnings in here. Our main character's fiance killed himself, and she's dealing with that grief in here. So it is quite heavy, and there is a suicide note in here. So please tread lightly if you're sensitive to those things, or you think you might be sensitive to those things, because a big topic in here is about that, just the grief and moving on. Do you move on from that? How do you move on from that? How long does it take you to move on from that? But you're also having our main character, what's her name, Anna, that her and her fiance had this like trip planned on their sailboat, a bunch of different places that she ends up stopping. She decides to take the trip anyway, and since she's not as skilled a sailor as her fiance was, she ends up having to hire someone, and she hires the most adorable cinnamon roll that just happens to be an amputee, and I love that character so much, and just how they allow each other space and stuff in the friendship, the relationship. And another one, if you're wanting to travel, definitely consider this one if you can handle those harder topics. I printed it out and I stuck it in the book. So yeah, they don't have this in the book, but I really wish that they did. This is all of the places that they stop. So they start in like Fort Lauderdale, and they go to all these places in the Caribbean and stuff. So very cool. I've actually been to some of the places that they talked about, so that was really neat as well. And now we're going to do a slow burn. We're going to talk about The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. I can't wait to read more of Mariana Zapata's books. I only read one other one besides this one. It was From Luke Off with Love. I recently talked about that book. It wasn't like my fave, but this one was so good, and it is a chunky boy. It's almost 700 pages, and it is slow burn. This is about a football player that's assistant is leaving to pursue her dreams, but he wants her to stay as his assistant. He also wants there to be like this marriage of convenience, but of course they have feelings for one another, and he's kind of grumpy and she's not necessarily sunshiny, but I just really like their interactions throughout this, and I think it was worth it, and it reads really quickly. So I don't know what it was about this book that I was able to read it so quickly, and I didn't mind like the slow burn. Like sometimes I'm just like, oh my gosh, let's get to it. Check it out if you're looking for like a sports romance that's light on the sports and slow on the romance. Romantic Pack by Megan Quinn. And if you look at the cover, like the normal, like the traditional cover, it's like a sports romance as well. I guess the main character in here plays football, but in this one it has nothing to do with football. He's going on a trip that his grandfather sent him to. It's also a little bit in the beginning is a little bit about grief and stuff like that, because his grandfather is no longer with us and he's sad about that. But he goes on this trip to Germany, and one of his first kiss girl like goes with them, and they've kind of remained friends, kind of sort of, but they go on this trip together and they fall in love, and it's so cute, and it's short, so like it has like Christmassy bits. And another one, like if you're wanting to travel, pick this up, you know. Christina Lauren, Nobody is Surprised, The Soulmate Equation. This is like the one, but in like romance form. So if you've read the one by John Mars, it's basically that book, but a little bit different. What makes this stand out to me is that our main character is a single mom, so she has her child to think about. In this one, single mom Jessica Davis is a data statistics wizard, and then she hears about this genetically buzzworthy new DNA based matchmaking company, and there's like different levels, and like diamond being the best or whatever, and you can just imagine what happens. But I thought this was really cute, and I liked the plot of the one, but I also liked the plot of this one, and I thought it was different. It was like the same but different, and I really liked the characters, and I think it was funny as well. So, and then Emily Henry, one of my new favorite authors, has People We Meet on Vacation, which is a friends to lovers book. And I know what you're thinking, you're probably already groaning, but give me a second. A lot of people don't like friends to lovers, and they don't like it because you're told that they're friends or that they have this history, and you're just supposed to kind of believe that and go with what the author's telling you. But in this one, you get to see the romance in the friendship build between these two characters over like 10 years, over a decade. So every summer, ever since their like college days, I think it is, since a faithful car share home from college many years ago. Oh, by the way, car share ride, college, just like I can survive the night, just saying. But anyway, so they took a trip home like from college one year, and then every summer for 10 summers they went on these summer trips, and then like kind of something happened, and of course it's revealed throughout the novel, but Poppy ends up inviting Alex for like one more trip, and that's the trip where they fall in love. And I'm not spoiling it, like it's a romance, you guys. All right, I want to talk to you about Eleanor in Grey by Brittany C. Cherry. I really need to get on my Brittany C. Cherry kick because I have 2 other books by her sitting on my shelf, and I don't know why I haven't read them. This is super emotional. They knew each other as kids, and then they're reconnecting many years later after much has happened. They were like young kids, and now they're adults, and he has a child and he needs a nanny, and it's just bonkers. I went into it knowing very little, and I think you should go into that, but it is emotional, and maybe look up trigger warnings if you're susceptible to, you know, those sorts of things. I don't want to say what they are because, yeah, but was another one that I read. Oh, I like totally cried in my reading vlog of this. So if you want to watch it, like watch it. All right. I also cried in this one, The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. This one, it's a little bit chunkier, which I loved. I read this so quickly. Maybe I need to reread this, but do I really want to put myself through that ending though. I don't know if I do or not, but it's really good. It's a military romance. It's about these two guys that knew each other in the military, and then one doesn't make it out alive. And so he sends his friend to take care of his sister. And yeah, it's really sad. Like the letters on the back, and yeah, I mean, I was also in the military myself, so I think it also hit on that front for me. But it's just really, really sad. You might want to also look up trigger warnings for this. Read It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. If you don't know, Tessa Bailey does write sex scenes, smutty books, and it definitely, you know, has some sexy times in here. So if that's not your thing, avoid this. But if you're into that, check it out. So you have, this is like a Schitt's Creek inspired rom-com. So Piper is, she's kind of like a little over the top, and her stepdad, I think it's her stepdad, sends her away to run their late father's dive bar in Westport, Washington. And there she runs into this like haggard sea captain named Brendan. And yeah, she's just like, it's definitely a grumpy sunshine, but underneath he's not really grumpy. He's just like misunderstood. But I really liked this one, and I love the cover, and I can't wait. The new book in this series like comes out in 2022. I think it's called Hook, Line, and Sinker. Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne. You guys know I have a love-hate relationship with this author. Loved The Hating Game, hated 99% Mine. This is where it's at. Please, Sally Thorne, please write more like this. Second First Impressions is a book set at a retirement center, villa, Providence Retirement Villa. And Ruthie has worked there for like 6 years. She takes care of the front desk. She takes care of the residents. She kind of guards these tortoises that live at the center or whatever. But her life revolves around work. She lives on the property, she works there, and she's kind of forgotten how like young and free and single that she is. And then the property developer's son, like they buy, a new property developer buys the property, and his son moves in temporarily to like keep an eye on things, I guess, or something like that. And he moves onto the property as well. So they're neighbors. Ruthie and him are neighbors. It's so cute, you guys. You have to read it. The retired residents are hilarious, and it's just so cute. It's so freaking wholesome. I loved it. A Season for Second Chances by Jenny Bayliss. I am hesitant to put this one on this list because to me it's more of a contemporary story with a little bit of romance. The romance doesn't happen until like much later in the book, and I'm talking like much later, and it's not like it's a slow burn either, so just keep that in mind. This is more contemporary with light romance vibes. So at the beginning of the novel, the main character finds her husband cheating on her again. She's had it. She moves out of the city. She takes this winter guardianship position in this like coastal seaside town. And then the owner of the house is like this old lady, like I think she's like in her 80s, and her grandson is kind of tasked to check in and see, you know, make sure everything's on the up and up. And it's the romance between those two characters, but there's other things happening along the way too. It's a slower paced story. It's more about the town and about her moving on and like fixing her life and stuff like that. But she's only in town for like the winter to take care of the house, and then the lady's gonna come back. So you just have to read it to find out everything that happens. But I really liked it. I love this cover. A book I'll probably never stop recommending, The Matzo Ball by Jean Meltzer. My first Hanukkah romance. It will not be my last. Cannot wait for Jean Meltzer's new book that comes out in 2022, Mr. Perfect on Paper. Okay, so this one, I do like the romance, but it's not like a romance like I've ever read before. It's almost like a fated soulmates story. But there's a certain word in Hebrew that they use to describe it, but it's like more than soulmates. You have to read the book. They actually like tell you what the word is. But this is about what's her name? Rachel Rubenstein Goldblatt. She's obsessed with Christmas, but she's Jewish. Her father's this really important rabbi. Her mother is like a doctor, or I don't know what she is, but she's really prominent in the community and stuff like that too. But she's obsessed with Christmas. She's secretly been writing these romance novels. So she's like a best-selling author of all these romance novels that are, oh sorry, Christmas romance novels. And she can't really tell her family about it, you know? And her agent, she goes to pitch a new book to her publishing house, and they say, actually, we want you to write a Hanukkah romance. So she needs to find some inspiration. She wants to get an invite to this matzo ball max, and it just happens that that event is run by like this guy that she dated, you know, back when she was like a teenager, and they went to summer camp together and things happened, and yeah. Super cute, really liked it, like the cultural bits. But the thing that really stood out to me was the chronic illness and chronic pain that the main character dealt with. It's chronic fatigue syndrome, and I'd never heard anything about it. And in the back, the author does go into detail about their, they have resources in here. Oh, the acknowledgements alone, the author's note, what is it? So they have the acknowledgements, of course, and then they have an author note, so like the personal experience and stuff like that. And then they have resources, and then they have a reader's guide in the back, like questions for discussion and things like that. Yeah, so I highly recommend this if you're looking, and the author does have chronic fatigue syndrome, so it's an own voices story, and I just really enjoyed it. So next up is The Heart Principle by Helen Wong. This is the third book in this kind of companion-ish series. Characters do kind of cross over. This one is different than the first two because this one is a little bit more hard-hitting, and while it does focus on the romance, it also focuses on, like, I don't know, like familial, how do you say that? Familial expectation and cultural expectation and being a caregiver. Also, just a lot of things. It's very emotional. But Anna's son is a violinist, and she's kind of hit a block where she's unable to make it through this piece that she's supposed to be working on. Her boyfriend says, oh, we're totally gonna get married, but before we do that, I really want to like see what else is out there, so let's like start seeing other people. So she's like, okay. So she decides to like put her information out on a dating app, and she hooks up with Quan, and it's supposed to be like a one-night stand, but for whatever reason it doesn't work out. So they try again and it doesn't work out, and it's so great that it doesn't work out. And I just, there's so much about this that I love, and I didn't know too much about it going in. And I think it's best to know that. So like if you need trigger warnings, like check for trigger warnings, but also like go in not knowing too much, and I think you'll be much more pleasantly surprised. And the last book that I want to recommend is Always in December by Emily Stone. Now this one, I will say that it is also probably not a romance. I know there's, in the romance community, there's people in uproar like, this is not a romance. Do not expect a happily ever after in this one, because you will not get one. But I really enjoyed this one. When I was reading it, it was probably more of like a 3 stars. Like I was just like, okay, whatever. And then I got to the end and I changed my star rating from a 3 to a 5. So I don't want to tell you too much about this, but I'll tell you what I knew going in. And if you need to do more research, do more research. But I think if you read the synopsis, you're going to be spoiled, and it's not going to hit you like it hit me. Okay. A chance encounter during the holiday season brings 2 people together, then quickly tears them apart, but fate intervenes again and again in this romantic debut novel. That's all I'm going to say. That's all you need to know, I think. But just keep in mind, it's not a romance. There is not a happily ever after. And yeah, okay. I'm going to leave it at that. But those are the romance books that I wanted to recommend to you guys. There's so many good romance here. Look at that. Oh my God. Can I get them all on their face? Anyway, these are the romance books that I wanted to recommend to you. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you agree that these are some of the best that you've read. And I just can't wait to start reading more romance in the new year and find new favorites that I can recommend you guys. That's all for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're all having a lovely day or night. I'll see you guys again in another video very soon. Bye guys.